I'd like to call to order the February the 10th meeting of the Urban Forestry Advisory Board. Do we have to take roll or something? No?
We don't have it on the agenda, but
Okay.
that might be a good thing for us to add, actually. I know that the Parks Board does that, and so thanks for mentioning that. I think we might add that in the future. I think, yeah, we can go on to number 2 then, whenever
Number
you're
2?
ready.
Okay. The January 13th board meeting minutes are included in the packet you received as part of the agenda.
I read them, and they were perfect. I move approval.
Okay, does anyone have any additions, changes, deletions they would like to put in for the minutes? I had some things, it's mainly
Oh, really?
sentence things. It wasn't anything regarding the content, but on paragraph number 3, I thought it might be better expressed to say needed to I can't read my handwriting anymore. Okay. I can give you some changes. It's basically in sentence structure that it just would flow better. It's not anything regarding content. And I wrote them down, and here, of, there, that kind of thing. But other than that, it was fine for me. So I'll just give this to you and you can just change it.
Okay. I move approval with the chair's corrections.
Okay. Do we all in favor of, do we have a motion for approval of the minutes? We have one. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, on to number 3. We have a new UFAB member, Mr. Russell Dye, who's sitting to my left. Can we go around and just introduce ourselves so he can put a name to a face? We just introduced ourselves. I'm Glenda Patterson. I'm the chair of the Urban Forestry Advisory Board, and this is our meeting, our monthly meeting. And over here to my right is
Aubrey Shepherd. Old person.
he's our speaker today.
Extraordinary photographer.
Yes, yes.
Malcolm LeBois, and I'm the vice chair.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Sue Madison.
John Scott, Urban Forester.
I'm Derek Lynn. I'm another urban forester at the city, and we're so glad to have you on board, and thanks for your interest in serving.
Thank you.
We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm Damon Lipinski, board member.
Okay. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Now, we want to know all about you.
Yeah, well, I'm Russell. I'm a law student over here at the university, and I was a horticulture minor in undergrad at the University of Georgia. You know, I studied abroad, urban forestry in Paris and London, Italy, so yeah,
Neat.
looking forward to
Very
it.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah. You give us some other ideas. Okay, we'll move on to we have a monthly presentation on native plant, tree, shrub, or an invasive. So it's something that's good or something that's bad. And today, Aubrey Shepherd will be our presenter.
Okay, well, what I'm sharing today is the American basket flower, Centaurea, Centaurea, whatever, Americana. It's also got a newer name, which I don't have written on here. I haven't memorized it. It's only about 4 years old, a new scientific name. They're often changing those things. And I don't know if they use DNA to figure out more things are related in another way or something, but the old-fashioned names get dropped, but it's very gradual. So even if you know that new name, you may not be able to remember it or find it online easily. But I do have that name on my Flickr set on the internet, and that's a photo storage group, and it says so-and-so's the name, and the old name was Centaurea. But the new name's listed there, and this past summer, 2015, I made more than 5,000 and posted more than 4,000 of them in a new group or forum or whatever you call it, collection of pictures on Flickr. So you can find them all in one thing, and you can, go to sleep while watching them, and they'll still be running early morning if your computer's got battery life and so forth. No automatic shut off. But anyway, the ones I want to share with you, let's see, are we looking at the screen over here?
You can just use that one. They can see the one behind you. It's a duplicate.
Okay. The first thing I wanted to do in showing this is this, I don't even know the things that it's a host plant to. I haven't actually bothered to look, I guess, or not, maybe a long time ago you did.
Is there something supposed to be on the screen?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't done
Double click
mine.
it. See, there we should open it up.
I use Macintosh, and that's why I'm illiterate here.
And I think if you hit these buttons,
Do-
that one, yeah, it'll
Okay.
go to the next picture.
Will it go to full screen?
Yep, we can do it.
Excuse me, Aubrey. Full screen is for them. In fact, can you, that's a little too full,
That's
isn't
very
it?
full.
That's pretty full there, and then we
That's
can
how I like
arrow.
them. I'm gonna get my cataracts done so I can see things that are smaller, but right now I really love these. Can you see it now? Okay, this is a monarch butterfly. And of course, that's an endangered species in our part of the world, and not classified that way yet, but the numbers have gone down so much. And some of you, you two guys for sure, were at the monarch butterfly meeting, and staff members. And so I wanted to assure you that this is a valuable plant for monarchs. This is one of the photos of a monarch nectaring on this plant. And
I think if you use the arrow button to the right, it'll
yeah, the arrow. There we go. There you see a different one. And we'll see, yeah. So I put in a few different photos of monarch using it. An occasional day, I would be out photographing the basket flowers, and a monarch would show up. So all of these are from the same one, the same day, which is what I could find easily yesterday morning when I was trying to put together a show of this. But, of course, we could also be talking about milkweed. There are 11 species that I could show pictures of sometime, growing within a mile of my home in South Fayetteville, milkweed. But it doesn't last all season because somebody mows it down. It's either the city or a property owner. Even places with beautiful wildflowers may get a note saying, mow this. And the highway department does it and wipes it out. Well, it also wipes out American basket flower as well as all the species of milkweed that monarchs need. So these things are related, and as I say, these are two endangered species in actuality, whether neither one of them is listed yet. And the effort we heard about in that meeting about the effort to save the monarch is that there are reasons not to get it on the endangered list, but I won't try to say what those are. But this is a pairing of similarly threatened species. It's an annual. What is it? What's the word, Malcolm, for the species that the basket flower's in that I would say?
Centaurea?
Yeah, and what are some? What is it? Knapweed.
Knapweed, that's right.
Knapweed is a small, much hated, invasive species. I don't know if it's from Europe or Asia or where originally, but I think Europe. But anyway, the American basket flower cannot compete the way knapweed does, because knapweed is an annual. I mean, it's perennial. And not only will it grow from wherever its seeds fall, or wherever birds and other creatures move the seeds, it'll just keep coming up and coming up. And I don't have a picture here of the knapweed, but you can imagine it's called spotted knapweed. Is that it? It's very similar. One of the things it doesn't have is the beautiful basket that you see.
That's the bad one?
That's
That's the basket flower. No, I'm not going to show a picture of that.
Oh, you're not going to show the bad one? Okay.
They're just smaller. I mean, you know, they're very similar in many ways. But this has to come back from seed every year. So if you collect some, and I'm going to share with you some at the end of the meeting, you can propagate it very easily. I propagated it by tossing it out on bare ground and in various places. And this summer, I discovered in June not only some of the places that I knew were going to be wiped out. There's some places were wiped out by the end of the summer where these things were growing 6, 7 feet tall, beautiful, and would have been left alone except for construction projects or other reasons that they mowed down that land. And in one case, I think somebody went and collected all the seeds off of the place, because I went by and looked at it one day and there were no seed tops left. So, but in my collections, I would only do partial. If something's in a place that's going to keep growing and be successful, then I would let it keep growing. Well, that's kind of a solid. But this shape you see right now is the stage of being called shaving brush. If you look on a flower site for shaving brush, this will probably be the species you see. And each evening when it's in bloom, I don't know how many days exactly one flower can actually be in bloom. But having had it in my yard for a couple of years where I would actually go take pictures of the same ones over and over, I quickly learned that it'll first come up straight, and then it'll fold out, and then that night it'll go back down in the basket. And there are lots of flowers that do that kind of thing. They close up at night. But this one is pretty special. And early in the morning it looks one way, in the evening it looks differently. And following morning it won't come back looking exactly the same way. It comes back out, and finally one day, after looking something like this, with that basket that looks so delicate and so woven by, well, maybe a good artistic angel paints these. A lot of times we joke about it, but that's what it looks like. See, these are different stages. Up in the top, around the edge, you see those are the seed pods. That's what these seeds that I'll be sharing with you came from. And you wait till they're like this. You don't try to collect seeds by taking a whole pod until then you can snap it off, and very easily right up there, and or just scrape your hand through there and maybe get 20 seeds out of each of those pods. And that's enough to plant 20 starts, and they'll have, if you've got 20 to grow, just in the size of this area in front of us here, you would have a bunch of different stalks coming off of each of the stems. So these are just to show you some of the views. See how that one's widely spread. That's a little past it. It's what I call its best. I'm not sure I have what's classical, very best shot of this in this particular selection that I made rapidly yesterday. See how that's coming apart? It didn't stand up. it'll go back down maybe that night, and then the next day it'll come out, and it'll be a little bedraggled looking. And here's one, see how that one somehow got bent down, and it's sort of a shaving brush out to the side. And there's some, and there's, you see how the, after the fact, before they go to seed, and they'll just sort of hang down through and look a little sad. If you read online how to plant these, you get different things. It's like, doesn't take much water, it only needs partial shade's good, but it'll also grow in the shade somewhat, and it'll do real well in full sun. But when we talk about watering it, I've never watered one. Okay, I don't mess with nature. I'm not a gardener per se. I like them like they are. I don't cut them and take them home. If one's broken off for some reason, I occasionally take it, put it in a vase in our kitchen as a surprise. But so, okay, I guess I'm back to the first part. But all those different, in these, if you look at my 5,000 this summer, you'll see totally different. They'll look alike at plants, but they'll be slightly different in the way they are that moment, that day. And they're just a wonderful thing to have in your yard. And they attract all kinds of pollinators. Same day I got the Monarch in this, I also had several kinds of swallowtails. I had lots of bees on them, things like collective bees, the native bees, tiny little bees, the big bees, the flower flies, the flies that are, we could say they're mimicking bees, but bees might be mimicking them for all we know. Those kind of comments, I think, are not necessarily factual, but I would recommend my own experience here is put them in the best dirt you can, but some of these in this particular grouping were growing under. It's as if the seed had fallen there, had started growing out to the side under a rock so big, and then it comes straight up when it hits light, and might only be a short one. It may not grow 7 feet. But in this grouping, there were lots that were 7 feet. But late in the season, there were some tiny ones. And when I say late in the season this year, they were blooming from, mid-June or whatever date in June I first started finding them in some places. And the last ones in bloom were in the first week of December, I believe. I believe that's when I last got one or two out there still had color. And so that's a long time. If you, on the internet, you may find that they're only 5 feet tall and they're bloom in May till June or through June. But that's in Texas. So it's drier down there. So, but we had a wet year, and the rain allowed a lot of things to just grow like crazy. Okay, well, any questions about them? I might be able to.
I have one. This isn't a typical winter we're having.
No,
we
it's
have
not.
Lots of warmth in winter months. What would be the normal blooming time for a regular year? Does it go as long as December, or is it October?
No, I hadn't seen them until this year that late.
Mm-hmm.
I kept thinking, in late October, I do short takes on public access TV every week, and I ran pictures of these things. It's like, this is the last week I'll have basket flowers on it. But then the next week there'd still be some more in bloom, and I just document it and share it, and you assume that it's not the same person that watches the show. We don't get enough people watching public access TV, so we don't know. But
So it doesn't go into the fall usually?
It goes into October.
October?
But
Not after
I've
that?
seen 3 years ago, I never saw any after mid-September.
Okay.
But you can expect, the chances are from June, sometime in June till,
Sometime in September?
mhm.
Okay.
But it could happen again till November, December. There were quite a few still in November, which was great.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Is this the native?
Yes, yes, I know. We're talking about native plants.
Just double checking.
That's what I'm saying. The spotted knapweed is its cousin, which is an invasive. And it shouldn't be here, but it's not a harmful flower. It's not, it doesn't take over trees or anything like Japanese honeysuckle climbing and killing trees, just tightly woven. And where you have the Native American, U.S. native Monarch sempervirens and Monarch flava, two that we have in Arkansas, native honeysuckle vines. They just wrap gently around something they climb, and they don't kill things. They don't make as many seeds as the Japanese honeysuckle, so they don't spread as fast.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
well, thank you. I will be sure to get some of the seed to plant.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Okay, shall we move on to item number 5 on the agenda, the UFAB orientation?
Does everybody get a copy of this, or should we still pass them around?
Pass them around.
Okay.
I got one.
If you'll take one and pass. Yeah.
So each year, at the beginning of the year, when we have new members, we go over sort of the board's purpose, intent, duties, and role that you guys play at the city through this advisory board, and tell you a little bit about what we do at the city as well. And so we won't read every item on this, but we wanted each of you have a complete copy of this orientation document for reference, and then to kind of touch on some of the important points today, and then take any questions or discussion points that you might have as well. But some of you might recall this board used to be referred to as the Tree and Landscape Advisory Committee. And then in 2011, Council renamed it the Urban Forestry Advisory Board. The Tree and Landscape Committee dates back to 1993, and then you've been Urban Forestry Advisory Board since 2011. You play a really important role in advising City Council and staff on issues that are important to you as community stakeholders regarding urban forestry management and planning in the city of Fayetteville. And I can think of 2 important items just off the top of my head since I've been here that energy from this board has provided a catalyst to things in the community happening, and one is your interest, the board's historic interest in invasive plants, and having some sort of community approach to management of those through your recommendations to council and staff. A stakeholder group was formed about a year ago, and through a series of meetings, it was determined that some sort of ordinance amendment was needed, and educational effort to address invasive plants at the city level. And so through that stakeholder group, an excellent educational packet on why we're concerned about invasive plants, what they do to our urban forest, and then also recommended alternatives to these 18 least desirable invasive plants is available on our website. And we should have a link to our website in this document. We would encourage each of you, if you haven't gotten a chance to look at that educational packet, it's available on the city's website, and kind of familiarize yourself with that and spread the word about that educational item. Along with that, then an amendment to the landscape regulations chapter that John and I administer through the urban forestry role, which basically says when developers are submitting development plans that require a landscape plan, so this might be a commercial application for a gas station or a multi-family housing complex of 3 or more units that requires a landscape plan, we now have language in code that says 18 of these invasive plants that have been identified are not allowed to be planned or on those plans or planted in the landscape. So that's the other piece of that. And then, of course, interest in street trees along the median of Highway 265 when that corridor expanded in East Fayetteville from a 2-lane to a 4-lane divided. This board provided some opinions about what you would like to see out there regarding street trees. So, just as a reminder, some of those items. You also play a role. You sit twice a year as the Wildland Urban Interface Firewise Advisory Board. We have City of Fayetteville is a Firewise community, and we have staff from the fire department that administer that program. Twice a year, we have a representative from the fire department come and basically you guys can play a role from your board position here in some of their outreach efforts, really aimed at talking about right tree, right place, right plant, right place when the program's looking at this the sort of the interface area between areas that they're protecting in the city and more rural areas outside of the city. You serve through the board. The board meets once each month. Throughout the year, you can call special meetings to carry out extra duties if needed. And a majority of our voting membership constitutes a quorum. You each serve staggered 2-year terms, and we ask that you attend a minimum of 70% of meetings, but we really want you here every time. And the board is composed of stakeholders from different stakeholder groups, including the land development community, tree service community, university or education stakeholder representatives, and then also citizens at large. In the event that we don't have someone representing one of those, code says that others can apply. So that's the goal, and that's the first preference when the nominating committee is choosing members. But that's not always accomplished just based on the applications that are received. You know now where we meet and when we meet, and we do. John, did you want to mention anything regarding the Roberts?
Oh, Robert's Rules is our, which I have a copy here. It's our standard rules of order. Take one past it. And that's just an overview of the standard order of the meetings. Pretty standard.
And so we're providing that to you as a reference. This meeting, we didn't plan to go through it in detail, but we might discuss further at the next meeting, and maybe even meet with you, Glenn, to hear from you how to help coordinate these rules of order, kind of that level of expectation that you have as chair. So you also administer and organize educational and outreach efforts through the city to help communicate with the public the importance of urban forestry. And one of the events that you do play a role in annually is the city's recognition of Arbor Day. We actually celebrate that in October through our Celebration of Trees event, and this is a tree giveaway many of you are familiar with, where we give away native plants to city residents as a hands-on opportunity to have people plant and grow the urban forest in on their property. So kind of tentatively sketch that into your calendars for it's generally the second or third Saturday in October.
You should mention the hour.
Right. We bring donuts. Bring your own
He's
coffee.
skirting the issue.
But it's an early start. It's a really early start.
Anymore.
So we start before the sun rises to make sure it's held up on the square in conjunction with the Fayetteville Farmers Market, and we all are the people power to unload the plants from the trailers, the city trailers and trucks, and then we kind of organize them by species, all well before the 7 o'clock start of of the market. So you can kind of do the math on that. It takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get all that organized.
Early night before.
Yeah, go to bed really early the night before. That's what I do. So, John and I work as urban foresters in the Parks Department. Through our landscape administration role, we work really closely with other departments and divisions at the city, including engineering and planning and development services. But we also work through the Parks Department at the city, and Allison, our supervisor, is actually here today, and so say hi to wave at Allison. She's our park planning superintendent, and she's really awesome, and we kind of work, all three of us kind of work as a team at Parks, and it's really great. That sort of setup is kind of outlined here for you in the packet. We provide the definition on the website of our understanding of, or sort of a city definition of the urban forest. It includes both public and private land, and so the city manages urban forest in our parks and trails, but then also through education and outreach, you guys can play a role in best management practices on private properties in the city. We have, as staff, we organize in-house trainings. Annually, we conduct a tree pruning workshop and have all city crews that are involved in right-of-way pruning or pruning and management of trees in parks. We all get together on an annual basis. There's some turnover of new staff, and so sometimes it's new information to some, but it's standards can be updated and changed over time, and so it's good for all of us to hear the latest and greatest. We usually have a representative from the Arkansas Forestry Commission come and conduct that workshop. There's a chart on here regarding how the urban forest is managed in the city of Fayetteville, and that's kind of broken out here for you. All of these bodies on the right side of that column play a role, so kind of mentioned what John and I do through our role at the city, and then right-of-way, tree canopy. Once it gets a certain age, usually 3 years, once the trees are established, then the transportation right-of-way crew manages those as needed, those street trees. We have an urban forestry services crew that works out of the Parks Department, and they're responsible for the trail trees. We have as you know, a growing network of trails in the city, and so their sort of network of management territory grows every year. So in addition to that, then they also manage and plant trees in our city parks. And then just a reminder that private property trees are private property responsibilities, and we have that as a reminder on the city's website, and have provided that here. You also advise us on locations for street tree planting projects. One that you'll hear us discuss from time to time is using tree escrow funds to plant trees in neighborhoods. And a lot of times the location of those, I'll back up for a second, this money comes through private property development in the city. So as I mentioned, we have landscape regulations that we administer. We also administer preservation and protection of existing mature canopy. And through Chapter 167 of the Development Code, there's a few different options that applicants and developers are allowed to meet the minimum requirements of these developments. And the first preference is to preserve the minimum amount in existing canopy, but in the event that can't be fully met, finding approval of their tree preservation plan. There are mitigation options for replanting the difference that can't be preserved. And so one of those options, the least desirable, but we actually see a great benefit in the community, is payment into the tree escrow fund. So City Council has approved a dollar amount. It's $675 per tree, and that is identified as the fair market value to purchase and plant a tree and then to maintain the tree for a 3-year period. We're talking 2-inch caliper trees that would be planted in the right of way as street trees or as mitigation trees in common areas. And so through that payment amount, we take those funds, and the code says that we are to start where the development occurred and kind of work out from there. And so in times that we can't plant back in that neighborhood that the impact occurred, then we look at other areas in the community that need street trees. And so we come to you guys for recommendations on where to plant trees in the city. There's a lot of criteria that we have to look at before we're just putting them in the ground, but we want to hear from you guys when those opportunities come up. We've actually got an escrow. We've actually got a tree planting project coming up. Should be planted by early second quarter of this spring. And this is an exception. We're actually planting in neighborhoods where trees were previously and just didn't survive the 3-year establishment period, and so we're going back to replace where trees didn't make it. We'll be planting about 40 trees through that this spring across about seven neighborhoods in the city. We've highlighted, disregard that paragraph about budget. That needs to be updated, and it actually should be really retermed funds available. And we like to provide that to you all as reference, but we need to provide you this year's numbers. I have that, but just didn't get it in the report for you today, so we'll follow up with you on that. those escrow projects, you kind of have a breakdown right above that of what we've done at least since 2012 regarding planting and maintenance of trees through that program. And some resources down there at the bottom, including a tree canopy assessment that was conducted in 2012 that told us kind of big picture about what we have, what could we have, and how could we get there through potential new planting locations. So take a look at that as well when you get a chance. That's on our urban forestry page on the city's website. You can you can Google urban forestry city of Fayetteville, and it'll take you right there, and you can find it there as well. And
Finally,
what
I have
else
some
could we add?
certificates to pass out
Okay.
from the mayor and clerk. This one is for you. So we can pass that to Russell.
Thank you.
You know, I think that covers it.
John, yeah, or Allison, do you have anything to add?
No, we're just excited that you're here and very appreciative that you volunteer your time to help contribute to the city and growing its urban forest and participating in the programs that we have. So thank you all.
Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
If a developer comes in and they're putting in a subdivision and it has some nice large mimosas or tree of heaven on it, we surely don't ask them to preserve those. Is there any requirement that they remove nasty invasive things? Even if it is a majestic mimosa?
Yeah, great question. There's not currently a requirement that they remove it, but through review of their tree preservation plan, we are seeing through site visits and through the tree preservation plan, we're receiving that information about species of trees, condition of trees, health of trees, age of trees, or size of trees rather, and so we can recommend, and we typically do if there's a if the development can be built and there's a patch of tree of heaven or something, then we're probably going to suggest / recommend that. It's not actually required that invasives are removed with development, but through our review of the plan, we can take a look at what's desirable and really, you know, like you kind of suggested, it's not big picture. We're not looking to save every tree, but rather we're looking to save what makes sense to save, and generally not mimosas and tree of heaven. So.
And are developers cooperative with your recommendations there?
Typically. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there may be a need at some point to amend their guidelines for the developers?
Mm-hmm. Possibly. We actually, speaking of amendments or changes, our landscape regulations chapter 177 was amended to include that new language about prohibiting certain invasives, and so we don't try to get in there and change things on a really really regular basis, because sometimes when we change one thing in one section of code, it can kind of like domino affect a lot of other things. And so, but we also don't want to be stagnant, and we want to recognize that, yeah, sometimes change is needed. And so when you guys, we've got links to the two codes that we administer, 167 and 177. So as you guys kind of familiarize yourself with those, let us know if you see things that you want to comment on or suggest.
If it becomes a situation where developers are not cooperating with your recommendations on the majestic mimosa, would you let us know?
So we can move on that.
Yeah.
Slip out in the middle of the night.
No, yeah, with a chainsaw. Okay. Are we able to move on to item number 6, the annual report to City Council?
Yeah, so on that item, I think this will be pretty brief at this point. We wanted to mention that if any of you have, and I know, Russell, you may not have been able to review that information yet. So if you haven't, let us know and we can send or resend. Basically what I'm talking about is our template from last year. So annually, through your advising of council and staff, this board offers a presentation of topics that you find significant to the city council at a council agenda session. And so we had asked board members to comment on what has been done in the past.
Was that the PowerPoint?
Have you got
Yes,
one?
that's
yet?
the PowerPoint.
I looked at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
you-
Yeah.
you got
Yes,
one?
I've seen that.
Right. Yeah. So let us know here in the next week or two prior to the next meeting if you have anything else to add to that. We have and that goes for everybody. If you see anything else, let us know here in about a week, because we want to start working on getting that presentation together. John and I checked in with the clerk's office and the mayor's office, and we've identified a date for this that this will occur on. It's scheduled for April the 26th, and that agenda session is at 4:30 p.m. And for that presentation, we do need a presenter, a speaker. So wondering if anyone would want to volunteer.
I have to back out. I would like to do it, but I will not be in town that whole week. I'll be away at a conference.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know what the date was, and I saw it and I thought, oh well. Any volunteers?
Well, I guess I might as well do it the last chance I have. I think I've done it because something happened both times to the chairman. We seem to have a pattern here. If anybody else would like to do it, I would be happy to let them do it, but if nobody else can volunteer, I'll do it. 4:30
Thank you.
is kind of loose. I think it usually ends up being the last thing on their agenda.
Yeah, I missed it last year because I got there late, but when I got there, it was already over. So it sounds like it's a horrible thing, but it sounds like it also goes pretty quickly.
And it was very helpful, really, for getting this ordinance passed about invasive plants, because I think we brought it up
Yeah,
at
it was
least
in the
twice,
packet, yeah.
and they finally, and I would really like to see a component this time that, you know, one of our next goals is to have no-mow medians. You know, like Hank has brought plans for, and we've got a grant, we've applied, just so people start warming up to the idea that we're not going to have lollipop trees with turf grass underneath.
Say it just like that. I
Yeah.
love it. Lollipop trees with
A good
yeah.
visual, a good visual.
AstroTurf.
AstroTurf, yeah,
That
good
doesn't need
turf.
mowing, right?
Hey, that'd be nice.
Yeah, right, no more.
Yeah.
No motion.
So Sue, we'll be reaching out to you to kind of, we're going to reserve that room sometime in advance, maybe a couple weeks to 3 weeks in advance of that date. And by then we'll have the presentation solidified. We want to go up to the room and just kind of go through it to kind of have a practice round so that we're all really smooed for that presentation
Yeah, the
date.
vice
So
chair might
we'll let you know.
Yeah, that's right, there is a vice chair.
This is
There's
what
one
it's-
that-
You did such a great
So-
job. Really
Light will
did.
be up there because they're gonna start remodeling.
Oh, okay.
We'll figure out.
It'd be a different, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the location is to be determined because they will be remodeling. But we'll figure it out.
Well, my elections will be over by April, so I'll be a human again.
Okay, all right, any other issues, questions about the council meeting and the presentation before we move on? Okay, item number 7 is other business, and apparently we've applied for the AFC grant. Any word on it? Do we know when we'll find out if you've been awarded the grant or not, or?
we put the application in on Tuesday. We should find out the end of the month if we've been awarded the grant or not.
And do we know how much the grant will be?
15,000 was the max.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what, have we talked about what project exactly we'll do with this? I
Yes,
think we did, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to have it formalized.
it was the medians on Garland Avenue and College Avenue. One would be seeded, the one on Garland would be seeded, and the one on College would actually be planted with smaller 1-gallon plants and used as a display garden to show what Garland will actually look like in the future.
Okay, sounds good. And after if we are lucky and are awarded this, when would we begin work on it?
I think we have to take it to City Council, get their approval, and we do that really like the first opportunity afterwards. And
Probably April.
April, yeah, and then we would.
So
try to
just in
have
time
that.
for the
planting season.
no, the city council
Agenda.
presentation, we can say that an active project has been started from a grant that we applied for, and you'll be able to see the results of that endeavor. Other business other than the grant,
I have 2 items.
okay?
One, with the city's acquisition of Mount Kessler and various development spots happening there with, I think, some soccer fields and trails, I think it would be appropriate that we ask, could this board be involved in looking at some of the plans for Mount Kessler? I know we're going to put trails up there. I'm not sure what kind of trails and whether there will be multi-purpose trails, bicycle trails, pedestrian trails, or what. But since it will be a very large urban forest, I think we ought to look at it.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
I can give you a quick update on that if you'd like.
Yes,
Good.
go ahead.
Okay. We are in the process of developing a master plan for the trail system at Mount Kessler. There's about 6 miles of existing trails up there now, and they're all single track, just nature trails, no paved trails up there. So what the master plan is looking at is, is what we have appropriate? Does something need to be changed there? What are the opportunities for expansion? What are the opportunities for potential other access points? I don't know how much you guys have been up there, but since the city has acquired it, it has become extremely popular. So we're trying to find the best way to manage the increase in users and provide recreation opportunities and protect the environment. So there were a couple of different environmental studies done on it, and those were incorporated into the plan and used as information when developing potential future trails. So we created a stakeholder group that had a pretty broad spectrum of partners, I guess you could say, including the Land Trust, the Audubon Society, the hiking, it's Ozark, I'm not sure, one of the hiking groups, I don't know if it's Ozark Highlands. Both watershed groups, Beaver Watershed and Illinois Watershed. So we took a kind of a broad look at everyone who would have a stake in that land and brought them in to help kind of guide the process. We've had 2 public meetings. We're going to have a 3rd public meeting, which will be our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting, March 7th. You're more than welcome to come. Once we get the plan kind of dialed in, we're going to post it on the website, so it'll be available to the public prior to that meeting for people to review it before they come to Parks Board. Does that help?
Thank you.
Sure.
The other thing I wanted to think about for a minute is, I know, and I'm really glad Allison is here, that I think we had a grant or some special person that worked on a drainage or creek area at Gully Park.
Mm-hmm.
And could we get somebody to work on the creek at Wilson Park?
We have.
I mean, my grandson loves to go there and go there, but it's just really wall-to-wall bush honeysuckle and privet and euonymus.
Mhm. Yeah, we've looked at that, and we actually had the group that worked on the Gully Park Creek look at that one as well. But most of their funding comes from certain pots of federal money, and I guess the condition and the reach of creek that's in Wilson doesn't reach the threshold that works for those types of grants. Now the section on the, what is that, the east side that comes out of the castle area, we've had volunteers work on that and took out all the honeysuckle and have been helping maintain that as such. We might be able to try to shift that to the main Skull Creek. That
And
runs
it
through
does look
Wilson.
very good down there. It's further down where the swings are.
Right, yeah. No, I agree, it needs some work, but that may be an area that we can try to start focusing some volunteer efforts.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have to think of something to plan along that bank to keep it from getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
We looked at, which watershed does that go into? Is that the Illinois or is it the
Mhm.
Beaver?
Illinois, Skull Creek.
Beaver, or, yeah, because I know I was talking to them last week, and they had some fundage, so.
Could you possibly?
It worked.
So,
Talk to them.
I'll talk to Becca and see if they have some stuff, and maybe, because I know their volunteers are fantastic.
Oh,
They have
yeah.
some of the best volunteers I've been around as far as just their groups and meeting and like really, really getting stuff done as far as like, structures and things like that.
Yes.
And so I'll talk to her and see if we can figure out something, because that would be great. They really do a good job of like isolating and saying, this is where we want to do stuff too, because they're really good. I just couldn't remember. The watersheds throw me off because it's, which
Yeah.
ones go which way. And so that's what I figured you would know, so.
That'd be great.
Thank you very much for that input. Are there any other issues, items, questions?
I brought this, that's the recommendations from the University of North Carolina. It's just a recommended list of plants, native plants for gardens in the South that my aunt sent to me, and I emailed a scanned copy to Derek.
Thank you, this is really nice.
I'm sorry the quality is so bad, but that's just what happened when I scanned a Xerox copy. So if you need to do a native plant presentation soon, you could take inspiration from the list to make one.
And then the second sheet is a source list, right?
Right,
for
yeah,
native
some native
plants?
nurseries
Great.
and like. We didn't get a plant person for next time.
I was just about to ask.
Oh,
Okay.
I did have another question. On the invasive species suggested plant list, is that fluid, or is that, these are them for now types of situations?
Oh, can it be edited?
Yeah, and I'm just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that additional suggestions can definitely be communicated and suggested. I think probably the educational packet that was put together, it did go through sort of a round of revisions, and we had I think you guys look at the list and provide comments on suggested alternatives. So I think that as an educational packet is pretty solidified, but we still have other ways that suggested alternatives can be suggested to the public through outreach and things around that program.
Reason being, I've heard comments about it, so
Okay.
I wanted to give them an opportunity that they could voice their comments towards
Yeah.
y'all, and that it was a fluid situation, and if they had stuff to say, that we could bring it into a place in which we could voice and have conversation about it.
Yeah.
So I just did.
think our landscape manual, once it goes online, will be connected to it.
Okay.
We'll have more species on there. We do have a little more freedom, if I'm not mistaken, on adding alternatives. to
Okay, because I know the invasive species is I like it, and I like both of them, but suggestions are always fluid, You know, and so I just want to make sure before I voice my opinion.
Well, I think right before it passed, Nandina was on the naughty list, and I think it was Russell Black or Stephen or somebody suggested, the dwarf Nandina doesn't do any berries. So I think they made an exception, didn't they, to allow dwarf Nandinas?
Mm-hmm.
The non-fruiting
Uh-huh.
kind?
Yeah, there's basically some language that allows some but not others, yeah.
Yeah. So there was that.
Well, as you all know, every month we have a plant presentation. Who would like to do next month, which is February?
March.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is February. I'm really behind. Oh, this is not
I'll do
good.
February.
Okay.
I can do March.
And,
I can do March.
okay, and I'll do April. So we have a list for the next 3 months.
Well,
2 months?
2 months at least.
Oh, God, I'm behind. Wait, you're doing March, you're doing April,
You're doing April.
I'm doing April. But I thought, see, I'm
said
I'm asleep.
Yeah.
You said you'd do
You
next
said
Said I'd
month.
do February.
Oh, no, see, that's what got me all confused. No, okay, so you're not doing one. Okay, so you're doing March, I'll do April.
I think just for
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Hank knows May.
Yeah, we got you, yeah, so we'll have 3 at a time that
I
we're
can,
ready.
I can do May.
Okay, so March, April, and May,
Wow,
Okay.
planning, that's great, guys.
yeah,
Wow.
okay,
Nice.
all right.
If you send your PowerPoint to Tyrone, he will get it loaded beforehand.
That's right, yeah.
If you
send
do a
it-
PowerPoint.
Yeah, get it wrapped up about a week or
A
so
week
in
before?
advance of the meeting so that by Friday or Monday at the latest prior to the meeting, can send that into us, and then we can get it over to the government channel so it can most seamlessly be inserted into the meeting. So, to the
Okay.
report.
So I got April, put that down. Okay, if there is no, oh, you have an item?
Oh, I sent an email out to everybody asking to add to the agenda. So briefly, it's the plan that you guys must have been aware of to remove the protected status from the property on the north side of the J.D. China. Some of us here remember when the Planning Commission, the City Council staff all agreed, and it was required that to mitigate for the trees in front, what would be in front of the building, they would have to purchase the lot on the next street that abuts that lot where the building was put, and keep those trees forever. I think it's twice since that happened. I don't remember what year that was. Do you, maybe?
I don't remember the year.
But J.D. China built it, they protected it, but 2 different times I noticed there was a sound from up there when I was in the neighborhood. Somebody was cutting trees off that lot that the city had set aside. And so staff members put a stop to it. But last time was about 3 years ago. But anyway, this developer who's going to replace J.D. China building with a Raising Cane's, yeah. I understand their chicken's good, but they won't take checks, so I'll never find out. Anyway, old-fashioned that way, in many ways. But anyhow, apparently the developer, in order to buy the property, wants permission and build there. If I understood that right, you were,
It was my project.
it was yours?
Mhm.
Okay, so the developer wants to sell off half of that, or the lot that's the city had protected, set aside as protected.
The situation is the developer, Raising Cane's, wants to do, well, actually, the owner wants to do a lot split,
Mhm.
which Urban Forestry does not make recommendations on lot splits at all. And they'd like to split off the back portion, which is a tree preservation easement. And what we decided in City Council or Planning Commission just recently was to approve their actual plans just for the Raising Canes, and they had to include that tree preservation area for the approval on it. Now, the lot split has not been approved. If they do get an approved lot split, then they, would just buy the front portion of that property. And then that tree preservation easement would be its own piece of property, and it would be undevelopable. And Kit, the city attorney, has made a recommendation to the Planning Commission to deny that lot split because it would be an undevelopable piece of property that we're concerned with. We've had the discussion about that as well. So,
Okay, well, I read it in the paper that Kit had that information, and he remembered it when all that went down, and he's very good being in that position continuously ever since he left the city council 18 years ago or something. And he remembers these things happening, and it clearly was made clear at that time that this would be in perpetuity. Whoever it would go with, that requirement would go with the property. So I hope that occurs, and
Why don't you make a motion that Urban Forestry supports
keeping.
or opposes the lot split?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's good that staff's already doing it.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up. Like John said, we don't have the ability to administratively make a recommendation on the lot split, but per Kit's memo and recommendation, basically what the city attorney feels is that lot split cannot move forward unless the tree preservation easement were to be vacated.
Mhm.
Tree preservation easements can only be vacated through city council approval. So what we could see as staff is we could see if they still want the lot split, we could see a request sent to us to then make a recommendation to the city council on whether or not staff feels the tree preservation easement should be retained or vacated, and then that kind of spells out whether or not the lot split can occur based on, we would make a recommendation, and then it's ultimately, we present that, and then the applicant makes their claim as well, and then it's up to the city council to kind of, to vote a yay or nay on that. So since you guys do advise the city council on urban forestry items, we could alert you if something like that were to move forward, and you could have the opportunity to make comments and recommendations, certainly, to the city council. And Aubrey brings up some good points that, that was established for the ecosystem benefits and services that those trees provide. And it's not saying that Raising Canes cannot develop in Fayetteville. They can develop in Fayetteville. Their LSD, their large-scale development, has been approved. But it's just saying that, per John's review of the overall greater context there, that those trees need to be part of that earlier development for the role that they play in that neighborhood.
Well, are you saying then that it would be premature for us to make a motion today?
No, I guess you could make a motion.
We make a motion that would, a motion that says we request the urban forestry staff to keep the board informed of the planning council action on vacating the easement, and allow us to provide support when the issue comes up for review by city council. Does that make sense?
What kind of time frame might we be talking about here? Could it come up at a March meeting? And
It's so they would it could be that we could get an email tomorrow requesting it, or it could not happen, or it could be in 2 months. It's really unknown, but the timing is that it's gonna, like the submittal, staff has to have time to review the request, and that has to come through prior to a council deadline for submittal of agenda items. So yeah, if you guys as a group wanted to make a recommendation to the council, or to us, you could, I'm not sure how you would want to word your motion, really, I'm trying to think, but, and Allison might have something to add, but I certainly think reaching out to the council, maybe through a letter, maybe.
Well, if we made a motion right now, you'd have it. If they came through with an application to vacate the easement,
Mhm.
you'd have a recommendation.
Should we, to me, I feel like we should have more information on the situation besides, before going ahead and making a motion that they would have to deal with. I'm not saying the motion isn't the right thing to do, but going on, making a motion on.
It's too early.
A letter and, a conversation. I mean, I'd like to at least look at the plans and say, hey, this is what's going to happen. I mean, say they do the lot split and it becomes this thing that, maybe the city does have it and it becomes a park, or, I mean, there's options that this other park could be. I don't want to me, I'd hate to rush out and say, hey, there's this motion out and then we're stuck with it. I'd like to know more about the situation than just.
Well, from what Aubrey has described, a previous developer was required to have this tree preservation in order to do their development. And I think it would be breaking faith with that original developer that, number 2 comes along and we say, oh, well, yeah, he can have his way. We made you do it, but we're not going to make him do it. That bothers me.
Okay, I don't know how many of you follow city council meetings on TV or attend. I managed to watch all of them every year and attend a few. The older I get, the more I want to be home and watch it on TV. But anyhow, the 2 different occasions I think now we've had in the city council, people on the council actually saying, well, we ought to gut this, we ought to change this ordinance so that developers can do what they want. And the difference in Fayetteville and a lot of other cities in the world is that we do have a real effort to protect our urban forest
And our natural.
Well, we do have,
and natural beauty.
well, it seems like we have an issue at hand, but we don't have a lot of concrete evidence so
Okay,
far.
well,
So,
if I may,
yeah.
we certainly should, I agree that we should go ahead and make a motion just to say we support protecting the ordinance from that kind of change. But there were 3 people, I believe, on the city council who actually said something saying that they thought it should be changed to allow developers to just take out whatever trees they want, wherever they are, whatever kind they are, if it suits their plan, what they want to build. And I think that that's totally against it's far, far away from the original. I don't remember. Allison, can you say what year the first ordinance was passed? You happen to know?
The first tree preservation ordinance?
Uh-huh.
Oh, gosh. It was,
In the 80s,
no, I think it was later than that. but-
90s,
Yeah.
real early
It was
90s.
mid to late 90s.
I think it was early.
I think that, I mean, you guys can obviously make whatever motions you want to
Yeah.
make, but I feel like at this point, there's nothing really for the forestry board to advise on. I mean, if this comes forward as a request to vacate the tree preservation area, then certainly that would that would be very appropriate for you guys to have an opinion on that and submit that to city council when it goes to city council.
Madam Chair, why don't we think about this? Let's wait and see. And if something is filed or if something does look like it's starting to move, we've learned we can have special meetings. You could call a
That's
special,
right.
call a special meeting.
I think that
And I
there
think
is an
that-
issue. I think we should put it on as an agenda item for the next meeting to make sure that we keep it at the top of our heads. And it is a good idea that if something comes up, Derek can give us an email and give us more particulars about what's going on, what has happened that is different from what we're now talking about. And that way we don't rush into anything and we have more facts and we can make a reasonable decision. It sounds like if there is something to vacate, that's not what we think should be done, and then we can all make a joint statement. How does that sound to everybody?
No, I think
That's fine.
Okay.
It's
And is
just-
this something that frequently occurs?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
I
taking-
don't
Our-
know
our-
at all, but I just-
From Derek and I's perspective, we're concerned about this as well because this could lead to a precedent where a tree preservation easement that's been platted with something original, a new owner comes in and they can do a lot split and then, you know, they get rid of their tree preservation easement and it could set a precedent we're very concerned with. So we're watching this closely as well.
Well,
From that perspective, it sounds like there may need to be this, we're looking at this individually, but we may also need to look at it big picture globally here as reinforcing the,
Correct.
Well,
Right.
if you watch the planning commission, again, as well as the city council, they allow variances from all these rules: tree protection, streamside protection, everything like this. And in what year was the lawsuit filed? The Kohl's store out at the mall took down huge trees. Some of you remember that, I hope, but if you didn't live here,
I remember.
you remember. I know, and you remember.
Mary, what's your name, sitting up in that tree for?
Yeah, very flagship, whatever, butterfly, whatever. This, after that was allowed by the city council, the League of Women Voters and the Arkansas Sierra Club sued the city council for violating its own ordinance by allowing those big trees to be taken. And of course that meant, what was it, $600,000 or whatever was set aside as punishment. The city was punished by getting to keep some trees. $600,000 to buy land, well-timbered land preferably, or otherwise beautiful natural places, and to protect our urban forest. You want us out of here?
No.
Oh, okay.
You're saying already.
And the result is that all this money was used for green space, and that was great. That was a treasure for the city. And it's easy to find several places around town that were purchased with it. But the result is that the city council then came back and voted to weaken the ordinance. And I hope I'm not going to see it weakened again in my lifetime to continue, every time you give a variance, like streamside. I remember the first three, I got really mad at the planning commission about, I think he was on it, I said, when they made the first variance on the watershed thing. So, but each one is a precedent, as you'd say. Next time, they got to clear the land right down to the stream. I want to build in the floodplain. So anyway, I'll shut up, but
No, I think you
this is a very
made a valid
important
point,
issue.
and we're aware, and we're going to do what we can to support maintaining the current variances. I think that's the best we can do right now, is to keep our heads above watering our eyes out and move forward when we can, but not in haste.
And continue to educate the public by having these long-winded meetings.
No, I don't think so. We have no more items to discuss. Any objections to closing, to adjourning? Do I hear a
Move we
motion?
adjourn.
Any seconds? All opposed? All for?
Yeah.
Okay.